Welcome to RC Underground Radio.
We're racing toy cars here.
If you've been looking for a podcast that talks about one RC tracks, suppliers, and events, then you're in the right place.
I haven't changed my underwear since the Kenman. I'm not kidding.
I'm
not kidding. It's the same.
I didn't want to go there.
It's this.
And we're glad you're here. Now, here are your hosts, Ryan Retzloff and David Brinkman.
I am a BB in a boxcar.
All right, so we got a special segment here this evening, a little extra guest. We want to thank Dusty Smith from Chiefland jumping out. We had Dusty on last year. Had a great full episode, but tonight we're going to talk about something very specific. We all know about our good friend Ron Peacock, and Dusty's really doing something special. And Dusty, first of all, I appreciate you coming on, but two, I'm going to give you the floor just so you can let the audience know what you got coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me again. Really enjoyed the last time I was on, and enjoy all the episodes you guys have. But what we're doing is we are doing a special race to kind of honor Ron. Sometimes you have people in different sports and different activities that just kind of stand out, and Ron is one of those guys. I've never heard anybody say anything ill towards Ron, and most of the time you only hear bad things about people. You don't hear the good things about people, but there's so many people that just have nothing but good things to say about Ron, including myself. With me being a dealer, I've never actually purchased a car from Ron, but I have some of the guys that race for me that have, and they've all had great stories to tell. And so the few times I've talked to Ron, it's always been a good conversation. So I wanted to do something different. And, people have a lot of memorial races, but I wanted to have an honorary race. And so we put together this. I talked with you guys after the podcast that I was thinking about it. And I talked to a few other tracks, and they thought it was a good idea. So what we're going to do in honor of Ron, and his name is, we're going to have a race on his birthday. And the goal for the race on his birthday is just to raise money to get a car, multiple cars, to give out to maybe a kid. And it doesn't have to be a kid. Maybe it's a young adult, but somebody in the community that may not be able to afford a car but want to come race, and do this on his birthday to honor him. And if other tracks want to get involved, I would love to see other tracks do the same thing. If you can't do it on his birthday, which is November 1st, which this year's on a Wednesday, that's fine. But even if you could just do it the week of, like on a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday of that week. And what I'm doing at my track is all of the entry fees are going towards that car to put towards giving it to somebody. The great thing is I've already had several people reach out, and they're donating different things to the race so that I can give out to try and get more people there to get more money to come in. And I'm going to have a flyer coming out pretty soon with those sponsors. They'll also be on the live stream of the race. So a lot of people are on board with this. And again, any track wanting to reach out, like I made the logo with Ron's face on there, kind of cartooned it up a little bit.
That's awesome.
And if anybody wants that logo, I'd be happy to send it to them. Ron called me yesterday and expressed his appreciation for what we're doing. So I'm glad that he is excited about it as well, because you also don't know people how they're going to receive it. But he was positive about it, and I really appreciated that. And glad that he's excited about it as well. So any track that wants to get that logo or ask questions about what we're doing, just Facebook message Chiefland RC Raceway, or you can email me, Dusty at b3rsports.com.
That's awesome, Dusty. I mean, Ron means the world to us here at RC Underground Radio. We had him on just a very powerful and emotional episode that we had with him. He continues to call on us, checking on us, which is crazy.
Right.
We should be checking on him. But just an outstanding gentleman. He's so passionate. I mean, he got the word out, and he's been posting about scammers. There's there's a group of scammers. We don't know if it's one person and is using multiple identities or what's going on, but they seem to target the 1RC family.
Right.
Ron himself actually got impacted. I actually got impacted about 7 months ago, and several others. It's a shame that happens, but there's Ron, right? He's dealing with things personally, but yet he's worried about his RC community. So that just kind of tells you how this guy is. If there's people out there that they're like, Ron Peacock, who's Ron Peacock? Trust me, you're going to learn a lot more about him through Dusty's race. And if other tracks do this around the country, you're going to see a lot and hear a lot about Ron. Like I said, we did an episode. It's by far our most popular episode. It's just amazing how many people have listened to that, and it's definitely not about us. It's about him. His story is impactful, and we're just grateful and humbled that we were able to, to capture that he gave us that valuable time to capture that. But this is definitely one event we want to be involved with. So however we can do that, you and I will work out those details.
Well, I appreciate that, and we appreciate everything you guys are doing as well. Like I said, hopefully, any track want to reach out, I'm here. So reach out. Let's get this going. Let's make it a good thing, and let's get some more people in the community, the 1RC community, racing at the tracks.
Absolutely. If there's no other motivation, just let's get Ron sitting on his couch on his birthday, eating whatever he likes for his birthday, and just watching his social media and watching the live streams and just going, oh my gosh, this is happening all over the country. Can we imagine how thrilled we could make that man doing that?
We may have to get a 72-inch TV for him so that he can split it up as much as possible for as many tracks as they can put him on. So, anything else
about the race, or just tell us a little bit what's going on at Chiefland?
Well, we have a big change coming. I haven't made the announcement yet, so I'm going to probably make the video this week, and I have a big announcement coming out. Other than that, we've just been trucking along, racing, doing our thing. It's kind of my busy season with my main job, so I haven't been able to be at the track as much. But as we get closer to the winter time down here in Florida, what we call winter, as we get closer to that, then we'll pick back up and start racing hard again. Keep an eye out for our YouTube channel, Chiefland RC Raceway. That's where we post all of our videos. You can also check out our website, which is chieflandrcraceway.com.
So the main focus is the Ron Peacock race that's coming up on November 1st at Chiefland Raceway in Florida. As Dusty said, check out all their social media. Dusty does a great job. There's going to be a lot of information on it. Other tracks, let's do it. Let's figure out a way where other people, either if you can't hold a race that night, somehow get involved. Reach out to Dusty. Let's just make this just a magnificent event for a magnificent person. And Dusty, we can't thank you enough here at RC Underground Radio for doing this for Ron, because he's very important to all of us. And just for what you do for this hobby, for the 1RC hobby, you've been one of the originals, and you continue to have a passion and creativity. If there's any track in the country that is just doing it right, it's you and your crew at Chiefland Raceway.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Right now, our guests are a couple of off-road racers who are going to help a couple of oval dirt nerds try to understand this fascinating hobby. We've had a couple of guests on the last couple of weeks into the off-road world, and now we've probably got two of the biggest stars of this form of racing. So we're really excited to have you guys on. We want to welcome Adam and Ronda to the show. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the things I really enjoyed kind of checking in on you guys is just you really take it seriously. Like, you really take the hobby to a next level. My first question right out of the gate is, just tell me a little bit about your background, how you guys got started in this.
Yeah, I mean, both of us just started, purely as a hobby. It was just something that was fun and cool. I think one of the misconceptions from a lot of people with Rhonda and myself is that I was racing and then got my wife into racing, and that's actually not the case. Rhonda actually started racing a year or two before me. Completely different parts of the country. She was here in California, and I started racing in both South Carolina and Michigan, because I lived with my mom in South Carolina. My dad lived in Michigan. Mm-hmm. So depending on, where I was at in the summers, I would be racing in Michigan and Ohio. And then the rest of the year I'd be racing in like South Carolina and Georgia. But for me, I had just gotten a car, didn't know anything about racing. I was actually into racing motocross, and just had an RC car to kind of play around with between racing at the motocross track, or even sometimes when we were camping at the motocross races. And for Rhonda, it was her brother-in-law.
Yeah, my brother-in-law got me started in the hobby, and I think it was like 1989, and it was just some like crappy little car that I loved, and we put a Ferrari body on an off-road car, but I didn't care, as a basher. And then we went down to this track, and he got me started racing, and then he couldn't race anymore, so I had to learn how to do it myself. And at the time, I think I was about 12 years old, and I just had my mom drop me off at the track, and I wanted to do it, so I had to learn the mechanics. And I don't know, 34 years, it's hard to go over 34 years in an hour podcast, but right. I just didn't want to be just mediocre at it. I wanted to be really good at it. And just over the years, evolving from 1/10 scale electric to gas truck, 1/10 scale gas truck, and then into the 1/8 scale nitro cars as well. And then I like electric 1/10 scale indoor, but I really, really prefer the 1/8 scale nitro cars outdoor and everything else like that. And with all the races, it's hard to do everything 10 scale, on-road, off-road. So Adam says, if you want to be good at something, stick to one thing. And yeah.
Right. So at one time, Rod, I was reading that you were actually a low CT driver, right? Like back in the 90s?
Yeah, correct. Yes. And then when the 8 scale stuff blew up, I went over to Mugen. And then for a short minute, I went back to TLR, but then went back to Mugen. So Mugen's my home. It's always been my home. Cool.
So you talked a little bit about that you did run some electric. How about you, Adam? Did you run?
That's also where I kind of started racing. Was in 10 scale electric off road. Also raced a little bit of touring car, dirt oval, kind of a little bit of everything. But my main focus was 10 scale off road. And then I went to work for Horizon and Losi in 2000 to basically help them kind of develop their Nitro program. Even though for me, Nitro was still kind of new. I was just young and ambitious and just kind of willing to do whatever I needed to do. That was kind of my in to go to be able to work in the industry. And I think it was kind of the job at the time that none of their other top racers wanted to deal with. I don't think they wanted to kind of take on the Nitro project. And for me, fortunately, that's kind of the way that the market went and kind of blew up. So it actually worked out really well for me. And I also think like with Nitro, there's just more elements. So there's a lot more to kind of learn and take on, which has kind of helped me over the years, I guess you could say.
Like somebody's brand new at it, right? Like we are, just trying to delve into it and really understand it. What are some of like different classes or categories of RC Nitro, and how do they differ?
To be able to race Nitro off-road now, it's 8 scale, and 8 scale cars are a little bit bigger. The engines are a little bit bigger, more expensive. You do see a number of guys kind of transition from 8 scale electric, buggy and truck into Nitro, but honestly, if you don't kind of have some help or guidance at your local track, it's really easy to get discouraged and just go back to electric. Sure. The electric stuff has come so far, and it's so plug and play. There's very little maintenance that's required for the batteries and the motors, where Nitro is a lot more mechanical. having to actually tune the engines, tune the clutch, service and maintain the clutch. So it can be intimidating, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I started doing all the videos and stuff, was to kind of try to teach the basics of just RC. Like, it's funny because like early on, some of the racers would almost kind of like criticize in a way, like that the videos were just kind of like so short or basic. What we tend to forget as racers, like, there's certain terms and there's a lot of things with RC that don't cross over from another industry. So some of the videos are a bit more advanced, but a lot of them are very basic, just to try to help give people knowledge so that they don't get discouraged about nitro and either choose a different hobby or go back to electric.
I was just thoroughly impressed on your website. I don't know how you find all the time to do it, to be honest with you. You give a lot of information, much like a gentleman in our genre, which is Matt Murphy. You've learned the smart way around this is give the information, help people enjoy this hobby. If they're going to be successful in it, that's always going to be on their shoulders, right?
Correct.
You can take them 90% of the way, and they still got to find that extra 10%.
Yeah.
But I really applaud that effort, because that's like you and like Matt and people like that. That's what the sport needs, is people that will take the time and say, hey, if we're going to grow this sport, we're not going to grow on just the people we have. Because at some point they're going to get older, or they're going to start having kids, or their kids themselves, and they're going to do other things. If we're going to keep them in this hobby, we have to keep them happy and having good experiences at the racetrack. And you guys are doing that. That's what drew me to you guys, to be completely honest, is, you're out on social media, and I'm like, whoa, these people get it. Right? Like, this is more than just
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah. And that's what intrigued me, So just know, when you guys are doing all this work, like,
people are watching.
People are watching.
The amount of emails that he gets, it was just easier to send links to the information that we had already put out there, instead of answering the same question, 300 times, so that was part of it. The videos, we send a link to the video. We send a link to the website if they have information or, questions about engines and stuff like that. So,
yeah, I think, with both of us starting in the hobby at such a young age and not having that information available, and now with technology, it's like, we're just trying to kind of do our part to, help, again, not discourage. And it doesn't matter if you're young or old, just trying to not discourage people, because it can be really intimidating. If you just show up at your local track, first time, and you don't know someone, it's not very inviting. So trying to make sure that people are able to prepare their cars to where when they do end up at a racetrack, they kind of feel like they fit in a little bit, is kind of one of the goals.
Yeah, but there's no handbook you have to break your clutch in before you go out, you have to break, have the engine. If it's not broke in, it's you're sitting there for half the day idling tanks. And then most people don't know that if you're getting into it,
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot of little things that you're just like, I just want to go play with this thing, but you got to like take the steps to get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to treat it as a real race car, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was real impressed too with the website. I see that you have the motor break-in, offerings that you do. And as you just explained, Rhonda, that shows that side of it, not even just as a business, but just as such an important part. Like, if somebody doesn't break it in, they're going to break it.
And that really came from a couple of our close friends kind of pushing us to do that. Since, early 2000s, late 90s, when I was first getting into nitro, I don't know, I just kind of took it was kind of just my knack, I guess, a little bit. It definitely wasn't easy, but I wanted to try to learn the ins and outs and figure out the engines, and it became kind of like a passion for me. And I've kind of been known, I guess, a little bit as like engine guru or runtime guru within the Nitro community. When we first started, like with the engine break-in service, it was purely just we were doing some trial and error to kind of improve the process for ourselves, and it turned into something that we thought would be helpful for people. But I also was a little bit like intimidated where I'm like, man, this is the worst part of Nitro, the Nitro experience is trying to break in your engine. I don't know that I really want to deal with this with everyone, but a couple of our close friends basically pushed us and they said just a few things that kind of sunk in. It was a close friend of ours, Shane, basically told us like, this makes the Nitro experience more enjoyable. And that kind of just sunk in. And I was like, man, with technology and brushless and lipo and everything getting easier, Nitro could die in a sense, like, because Nitro's not getting any easier. It's so difficult to, figure out, especially until the engine's broken in.
And nobody had ever done it before. So you're kind of the first to come out big with it. And then you have a few naysayers. That's not how you're supposed to do it. That's not how you break in an engine and this and that. And now it's like the standard today. Yeah. So
yeah, you're always going to have those. You're always going to have the haters, right? Yeah. They think they can do it better. You guys are on the right course for sure. Obviously you're making a lot of people happy, and people are very thankful that you provide that service because they go out there now and they have a lot more fun.
Well, and even for like top level guys that that I've been competing against for 20 years, like these guys know what they're doing. They know how to break in an engine the old fashioned way. But again, it's still not fun and enjoyable. And having those guys embrace our service and use it also gave us a lot of credibility initially to where, again, if you're taking guys that are the best in the world and know what they're doing, and they're still sending their engines to us, that kind of says a lot. So,
and the $50, I mean, you're going to spend that breaking the engine in, so you might as well just have it done.
Yeah. If you're that immersed in the hobby, $50 shouldn't be the difference. And if it's 50, I always say in racing, no matter what form, and whether you're in full size racing or whatever, you can't let money stand in the way of your ability to enjoy what you're doing. Especially, one thing that fascinates me with Nitro is like you guys travel a lot. Like some of the other, Bella and Aiden that we talked to, like how much young racers like that are traveling to multiple states. I can't even imagine. Maybe you could give us a little idea, like how many states have you raced in just this year?
Almost everyone.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably only a few that I haven't. For me, it's difficult to keep track of because I'm gone all the time. But I mean, the
1 year, 150 something days?
No, it was like 180 some days that I basically stayed in a hotel room for racing. So,
well, don't tell me you've been in Wisconsin already.
No, not this year. No,
not this year. Any plans to run this year?
Not well. This year's almost over, so I don't. And it's going to get pretty cold in Wisconsin. So
well, I didn't know maybe if there was like an indoor thing, or because like we do have trackside here, and I know they do some big events there. Have you raced there? Have you raced at trackside before?
No, I haven't been to track. No, Scotty Ernst. Well, obviously he was previous owner of trackside, and in fact, I think trackside has the associated race coming up in a few weeks. So yeah, I've seen lots of videos and stuff and coverage from Live RC and Mod Media from the different events there.
Sure. Well, I'm going to keep track next summer. If you guys are coming this way, definitely want to hook up with you guys and get to spend some time with you. So, you talk about other, world-class racers and stuff. Let's not kid anybody. You guys are really good at this too. You don't just work on them. You win in them a lot. From people I've talked to, just to get some background, you guys are looked at as some of the world-class racers in this Nitro stuff. So, and I know you're not going to say it. You're not going to say it yourself. I know you're not going to do that, but
no, we still feel like we're big nerds. Yeah, especially now that we get older.
But I think that's also a big part of like the longevity and even some of the success is that we even today we're not doing this because we look at it as a job. Like tonight, we're going to go to the track, our local track, Thunder Alley, and just go practice. It's because it's what we do. It's not because we're forced to. I mean, a lot of guys that race at the highest level, they kind of lose that passion for just enjoying the hobby, and all they're thinking about is, almost being bummed out because they have to like get on another plane and go travel to go to work, because they look at it as work. I mean, yes, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of long hours. It is a lot of traveling, but
I don't think we have the pressure that they do. We do it just because we truly love it and we want to do the best. But those guys are like, I have to win, or I'm not going to have a ride next year kind of thing. We've done it so long that it's to the point where it's simply what we want to do.
Well, and from day one, like, I mean, I raced competitively and at a pretty high level before moving to California to go work for Horizon and Losi. But for me, from day one, like, I always wanted to be able to do more than just race within the industry. I knew that being just a racer is a pretty short career. You have a pretty short window to be able to be successful. And it's also a challenge, just like Rhonda was saying, like the pressure of, if you don't perform, you don't get a new contract, or you don't get a new contract that you're excited about. So for me, I always had, I guess, a little bit of extra stability where, yes, I was hired to perform and get good results, but I also was working day to day in the office from a very, very, early stage. And it's the same thing now with Mugen. Like, when I left Horizon and went to work for Mugen, their initial appeal was, hey, he's a great racer and he can get results for us, but he's also an asset because of the experience that I have from a testing and development and manufacturing standpoint. So for me, I just always kind of looked at it a little different, because again, like, having a motocross background, you see these guys jumping around, switching teams every year or two. And again, their window to be able to race and perform is such a short number of years that I love doing this. So I want to be able to do it as long as I can. And if results wise, you're not getting those wins, the company, you still have a ton of value to the company, or the different companies, because of the social media presence and because of the knowledge that you have, and doing the clinics and being willing to attend smaller races that don't have a bonus program, but you're just going to it because you love it and because you've met friends in different areas and you just want to go hang out and race with them. Mm-hmm. I think we just do it a little bit more genuine or natural than a lot of guys, because we're not looking at it as, oh, I'm not going to that race because I don't have an opportunity to win bonus money. That's never the case for me. So
right. You're doing it for the true love of the sport. Yeah, that's awesome. Clear up one thing. You were talking about local tracks, and you just talked about about your local track. Now, I also saw, which is Thunder Alley, but I also saw where there's the Drake Raceway at Palm Desert.
Yep.
So what's that?
Yeah, so about a year. So the Palm Desert track's been around for about 20 years.
Okay.
It's had a few different owners. It's on property that's owned by the city of Palm Desert, and then it's just leased from the city. And a couple of our friends, Chris Rogers and Jeff Ewing, they own the track for a few years, and kind of reached out to us a little over a year ago and said, man, you guys would be perfect to own this. And we kind of laughed and said, not a chance. We would rather show up, pay our $20 and practice a race and not have to worry about all the headaches.
It's a lot of work.
a track is difficult because no matter how much effort you put in, it's too wet or too dry, or the jumps are too big or too small, or your hours aren't what work for certain people. But our main thing was the Toys for Tots race originated out here, at least in California. Like the original Toys for Tots race started in Palm Desert. It's been there. I think this year will be the 19th consecutive year. And if it was kind of like if we didn't take over the track, that race would have not happened last year. So for us, that was really important. It's a race we've supported for many, many years. So, we acquired the track from Chris and Jeff. Chris was moving to Arizona, and Jeff was having some health problems and just basically couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, we took on more jobs than than we can handle, but it all gets done.
And for us, like, we want to be able to like improve it and make a difference, and
we want it as what we would want from racers. So we try to put our heart and soul into that as well.
And we have a good group of locals too. Like, I think one thing that makes it possible for us is that in Palm Desert, it's so hot in the summer, the track's closed. So it gives us a little bit of a break. It allows us to be able to go and support other local tracks and obviously travel a bunch as well. But during like this time of year through maybe like March is kind of our season for the track. So we have like a 6-month window where the weather is really nice there. The track's only 40 minutes away from us here, but the weather can be substantially different. So in the winter months when we get rain at all the other kind of Southern California tracks, a lot of times it doesn't hit Palm Desert. And it's also usually like 15 or 20 degrees warmer there. So cold nights and, when guys don't want to be at and support the other tracks, we can open up and have racing and practice. We have Daniel Adams from Proline that runs the program for us. And we just recently had a JBRL there. We have a top-notch race coming up in a couple weeks. And then, obviously, the Toys for Tots race is always the first Saturday of December.
That's great. Well, that's great. I mean, you're involved with the hobby. You're keeping the hobby exciting. You're paying back. You're paying it forward in the hobby. I mean, you guys are checking all the boxes and covering it. Another thing I see that it appears you do to help racers is that OS 2-1 motor trade-in program.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
So that kind of started when we made the switch or transition to OS from Novarasi. People who have run OS stuff know that they're the leader in nitro engines. They manufacture engines for almost all the other brands out there, like Flashpoint and Ultimate and Ninja. I mean, they make engines for almost everyone. The problem with it is they're made in Japan and they're a little bit more expensive than some of the other engines on the market. So when we made the switch to OS, we wanted to be able to offer engines at a more reasonable price to guys who were maybe on the fence, guys that were Novarasi customers or, maybe used to running a little bit lesser expensive engines. I wanted to be able to offer them engines at a lesser price or be able to offer them a discount. So we're able to offer them a discount if they trade in any OS-based engine. So it doesn't have to necessarily be an OS engine, but it has to be an engine that was manufactured by OS, where we give credit off on any new engine through our website. And then what we do with those engines that are traded in, if they're in good shape, we'll disassemble, clean, fully rebuild with new bearings, new piston sleeve and rod, break-in, new glow plug, and we'll be able to sell them as a rebuilt engine also at a lower cost. So it's kind of trying to make like different levels or stages to allow people to get into different OS-based engines. So some guys don't care if the cooling head or the case has little nicks or scratches when internally the engine is brand new. So they can buy a rebuilt engine at a lower price. We have some guys that just, once they feel they've kind of used up or gotten the life out of their new engine, they don't worry about rebuilding or doing much with it. They just trade it in, get credit, and just slap a new one in and go. So again, it's just mainly just to try to create different opportunities and different levels for people to be able to get into OS engines.
Sure. That's awesome. Yeah, the website is amazing. Very well done. I don't know if you guys are doing that in-house.
Yeah, Ronda does all of that.
So what don't you guys do?
Took me hours or months.
What don't you guys do? No, I mean, just everything. It's eye-catching, you know. I come from a marketing background, so that's usually Ryan, my co-host, is with. He's more the nuts and bolts guy. I'm more the marketing guy, you know. So like how you're using the purples and the colors and you got your own private label, motor lines and stuff. So
I went to school for web design and programming.
Nice.
So,
well, it's definitely shows.
A little bit of marketing.
Okay, so I mean, here's the elephant in the room, right? You're a husband and wife RC racing team. It's not like there's 16 of them on the block, right? Like you guys, it's refreshing. I'm hoping that a lot of RC racers go, I never thought about my wife racing. You should do it. I would imagine. I mean, you guys have been married a pretty long time, so it must be working out okay. So
yeah, a little over. We've been married a little over 14 years.
I appreciate that you guys are so transparent. I mean, you've got 2 websites. It's fantastic how, Adam, you're not shy to say how much you love your wife, and you post that on your website. I mean, that makes people connect, right? And I know you're not doing it for that. You're not doing it for marketing reasons. Yeah. It's just from your heart. And just. Again, that's what drew me to you guys and your story. And I'm like, we got to talk to them because you're doing it right? You're sharing this together. It's not like Adam's off racing and you're home or vice versa. You're off, racing and he's home. You're spending a lot of quality time together. And that's what this hobby can do. We talk about fellowship all the time, right? But we're usually talking about fellowship between different drivers that come from different places and meet up and race. Like, let's not lose track that it can be a husband and wife. It can be brothers. It can be sisters. It can be cousins. It doesn't matter. Take advantage of what this hobby provides in terms of being able to spend time together and stuff. So, but got to ask a couple questions now. Not trying to divide the room, but got a couple questions. So, do you guys ever race against each other?
Yes.
Yeah, all the time.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I think I know the next questions that are coming.
Oh boy, no! I think I'm gonna throw you on this one.
Okay, all right.
On this one. So I'm on the website, and this isn't to put Adam on the spot, but how come Ronda has an RD1 and RD2, and you have an AD2 and an AD3? Now, why didn't you have an AD1, and why did she have an RD3?
Yeah, so I did have a 81.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then when we did the 82, OS had actually reached out to us about doing a Ronda Edition engine. So her engine, her Ronda 2 is the same configuration as an 83. And her Ronda 1 is the same as an 82. But because when we did the original 81, there was never a Ronda. It's her numbering is one behind, but they're actually Ronda 2 is the same as 83. It was kind of confusing. Like with OS, we had talked to them about, let's just do it as a Ronda 2 when the 82 was out. Let's do it as a Ronda 3 when the 83 was out. But OS was like, well, this isn't the second Ronda or the third Ronda. So yeah, it was just that when we did the 81, there was just an 81.
Okay. See, it took all the wind out of my sails. I thought that was like a really good, I'm thinking, okay, he didn't.
There's a divide there.
He didn't do the 81 because he wanted to make proof of concept. So let's make Ronda put a motor out and see if it works, right? And then I thought, well, now that it works, he's going to do the 83. It wasn't. It's not. Well,
it's kind of funny because when OS reached out to us about wanting to do the Ronda Edition engine, Rhonda, I think, was a little like scared or hesitant because,
I didn't think a bunch of guys would want a pink engine.
Yeah, I mean,
and I was wrong.
She's raced, for a very, very long time, but she knows, like, for example, like in racing, no one wants to get beat by the girl or a woman. It's no masculine man, wants to be beat by some pink car. So she's kind of dealt with that the entire time that she's raced. And so I think a little bit of that was kind of in the back of her head of like, well, what man's going to want to buy an engine that has a woman's name on it? And she was like, basically telling me like, you need to order conservatively with this because, I don't want to get stuck with a bunch of pink engines. Yeah. But that was definitely not the case. I think a lot of guys embraced it because it looked cool, because it was a really good performing engine, and because they have respect for her as well. So
sure.
And OS had never done really colors like that very much. They're very conservative with the colors on the engine as well. So
yeah, that kind of stuff sells, I mean, and I think it falls under the category of, if you can't beat them, buy them, right? But it's a little different than, say, business, where, if you can't beat a competitor, you buy them. In this situation, they couldn't beat you on the track, so maybe we should run what she's running.
Yeah.
And so that's awesome. No, if I was running it, I know I wouldn't have an issue as long as that's the motor. Like, yeah.
And most people don't, but there are some people that, when she makes a clean pass on them, you can see the extra aggression come out because they don't want to hear it from their friends. Like, man, that pink car put a sweet pass on you.
I can be aggressive too, but
that's okay. Well, I don't know if I should bring it up. So you tell me if we can keep this in the show. But I did see the race where you guys you and another driver came together on the last lap. He initially got the win. Let's just say you were less than happy, right?
Oh yeah.
But then they looked at the video, they reversed it, and then it looked like everything finished the way that it should. You got the win as you should have.
Yeah, and I mean, Richard and I are long-term friends and everything, but I mean, those were really emotions. I'm not gonna lie. I was just like, that was just so dirty, and in my head I was like, he's gonna get it back. But yeah, like you said, it all worked out. There was a video and all that. I think where I get the most upset about that is like, we have race officials, we have race directors. Why doesn't anybody call that anymore? Mm-hmm. And because I come from the old school, they used to do that. So more than anything, just that there's a lot of stuff that's unfair and you just have to go with it. Like Adam just dealt with it. A driver didn't pass the line, but he
actually flew across the loop backwards.
Yeah.
And they initially awarded him the win, and I'm like,
because the computer counted that as the win.
Yeah.
But he never rounded the corner and went over the line. So I'm old school. What's right is right. What's wrong is wrong. So.
Yeah. Well, especially in this day and age where everybody's got a phone out, right? If it's a good race, everybody's videotaping it. So there's plenty of media there to kind of validate, a finish like that. That's crazy.
But to go back to Richard, we're friends.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
You still park next to each other in the pits?
Yeah.
That's cool. And then Adam, I was checking out your site and I stopped in my tracks when I saw that you had run a dirt oval car. Now, is that something you do, or was that like...
Yeah, so I do it every year at the Mugen Challenge. It's actually funny because I text Kevin all the time. One of the owners of LCRC, him and his wife own that track, which has a off-road track and also a dirt oval. And when I do the Mugen Challenge, I basically just rent or use Kevin's car for the race.
Okay.
And I always kind of joke with him like, it's so much fun. It draws such a crowd for the event that we need to do it every night. And he's like, there's not enough parts available for us to do it every night because even like this year we ran qualifying and I qualified first and Mayfield was second. And then before we go up for the main, Mayfield goes, just so you know, if I don't win, you will not finish. So basically, if he's not winning, he's going to make sure that I don't win.
At least he's honest about it, right?
Yeah,
at least he's upfront about it, so you know what to watch for.
Yeah. So it always kind of starts off fairly clean and, a good race, and then turns into a bit of chaos. But the car that Kevin has built is pretty awesome. It's a Mugen car, but it's funny because you ask him and he doesn't know what's in the diffs. He doesn't know what's in the shocks. It pretty much only gets used by me once a year now. But the car is pretty incredible to drive. But I have raced dirt oval in my early days of racing at our local track in Savannah, Georgia. It used to have a dirt oval around the outside of the off-road track. And for like our club series, we would always do like 2 weeks of off-road, a weekend off, and then 2 weeks of oval. And you had to do both to be able to kind of compete in the different club series. So I never was like really into, or like I didn't have separate dirt oval cars when I raced. Like I would have to, from week to week, just kind of convert my off-road cars back and forth to be able to run dirt oval. So I have raced some dirt oval, but it's not something that I do on a regular basis. I would like to. It's actually a lot of fun. And what I think is also kind of funny is, especially like with off-road racers, they'll go like, well, how hard can it be? You just go in a circle, or go in an oval.
Sure.
But it's so intense because you're doing so many laps. So even though it's like a short race, the attention span and focus with the speeds you're going, and especially in like Nitro late model, like you're dodging cars because at least from like the little bit of racing I've done, there's always like a couple really competitive cars and then a couple not so competitive cars. And that just adds to the mix of the chaos basically, but it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it.
So you guys travel a lot on the road, obviously. So maybe Rhonda can share some funny stories.
Just your when you were in the drive-thru with Mark Pavitas at the Burger King.
Yeah, I had a faulty rental car.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we were at it was actually at the Nationals in 2007. That day I don't remember if it was a practice day or qualifying day, but that day actually got rained out. So a lot of the guys, we were all staying at this hotel that had kind of like a restaurant and bar in the front of it. And I'm not much of a drinker or partier or whatever, so I was working on my stuff and decided to go grab some dinner. Just drove across the street to the Burger King, and it was just me in the van, and I'm getting ready to order my food, and someone like bumps into the back of me. They're honking their horn, trying to like, push me forward, and I look in the rearview mirror. It's Mark Pavitas, so I'm like backing into him, and he's bumping into me, and I'm trying to order my food. He's honking his horn, and we're just goofing off, messing around, not hitting the cars hard, but just kind of messing around with one another. And when I got ready, once I got my food and I got ready to pull out of the drive-thru, I had the parking brake on and was basically doing a burnout to kind of smoke Mark out when he had to pull up to get his food. And the drive-thru goes straight, and then it 90s to the left to go out into the parking lot. And I pulled the e-brake as I was going around the corner, hit the curb, and broke the rear axle off the van.
But you said the brake cable was like rolling with the...
Yeah, so when I hit the curb, I thought just the tire went flat. And like when I looked over my shoulder, the wheel brake assembly like literally broke off and is like going past me in the grass. And in my head, you're just kind of like in a state of panic, and I'm like, I've got to get that so I can get out of here, not realizing like the rear of the van is like dragging the ground. So then Mark sees me hit the curb, but he doesn't see me because there's like bushes and stuff, and I kind of rounded the corner. So he gets his food, and he's going to pull out, and he sees me carrying the tire, trying to like throw it in the side door of the van. And he's like laughing, spits his drink out. He's recording me with his phone. And needless to say, like, that was the moment for me where I'm like, now I drive every rental car as if it's my own. Because
you were scared,
basically scared that I'm going to lose my job. The car was rented in the company's name with their insurance and everything, but everything worked out and was fine.
They brought you another rental van.
Yeah, they brought another van, and nothing ever happened from it. So I was like, dodged a bullet and lesson learned.
The things you do when you're young.
Yeah, I was much younger at the time too, but I mean, with our travel, I mean, I think the best thing is just some of the amazing places you would never expect to be either so beautiful or so much fun, and also the people that we've met along the way. Like we went a couple of years ago to Libby, Montana, for a fairly small race. I was going to do a clinic, and actually Rhonda got sick and couldn't go the first year, and that's now kind of turned into what we consider just like an annual family trip and race to attend. And the people are so awesome. It's such a beautiful area. We try to go hiking, and this year we rented a boat with a group of our friends, and just made it more than just another race.
Float the river on the pontoons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, again, I hope a lot of people are this is resonating with them. Like, yeah, you got to be involved in this hobby with your spouse. Like, you guys are getting such an enrichment and so much more out of it than I think most people do. And I think they wouldn't get out of the hobby as fast as they do, right? Because a lot of times you talk to people and say, well, I race a lot, so I miss a lot of time with my wife, or I miss a lot of time with my family. There's nothing wrong with mixing the two together. Obviously,
Correct.
You guys are the case study of that. So,
and it can be on different levels too. Like if your wife or your daughter is intimidated by the racing, because it can be a little intimidating because it's all men, maybe you're part of the pit crew. Or maybe the other way around. Maybe, the wife just wants to race and the husband loves wrenching, and, that can work out well too. So, that's one of the things that's so cool about this hobby, is that it's for everyone, all
Right.
ages. There's super young kids, there's really old people, men, women. We can all do this, people who are even in wheelchairs and handicap and, missing limbs. It's like, you can still do this. To me, that's part of what makes it so awesome. There's people who work construction jobs to people who are doctors or dentists. It's such a wide variety of people that make it really cool.
So in our second season here, kind of our theme is what do tracks do right? What do tracks do wrong? After all these years, why would you be excited to go to an event? What's happening at that event that really drives you to go?
That's a tough question, because I always think that tracks could be more technical than what they are today. Everybody's going to do what they're going to do and how they think it's best and everything. And, you talk to track owners and they're like, well, I'm making it kind of easy for everybody. And I'm like, well, okay, but this is racing. You want it challenging, so how do you find that happy medium? Like even the layout that we did at our track, I still want it more technical, but that's just how I am. Sure. And everything. But I just think it's with anything you do, you give 100%. You just try to do try to get the best results you can and everything. But yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question. What do you think?
I think just trying to have a, inviting, fun atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because with some of the tracks, you can tell that they're there to make money. It's like anyone who owns a track or who owns a hobby shop, for the most part, they're doing it because at one point it was their passion. And eventually that gets sucked out of them. And they're just kind of like, come on in, race or practice, and then get out of here. And
that's where we're different, though. We put love into everything that we do. And if we didn't do it, then we wouldn't do it. Like you have to put love into everything you do.
And it can be difficult, like sometimes dealing with certain people is a challenge, and they can suck that passion out of you. But
I think when you have a goal, those kind of people don't even bother you when you're trucking forward.
I'm kind of curious of what the questions Rhonda thought I was going to ask.
The typical, have I beat Adam before? And I have a couple times. Obviously, he is at a higher level and everything else like that, but he's had some issues mechanically. And he's my mechanic as well. But, it just happens, and I have beat him a couple times. I beat him at that Montana race, and I would have had Truggy too, and then I had an issue. So, but no, that's what I thought you were going to ask.
Hopefully somebody's going to walk away from this episode and want to get involved. Like you said, it could be young, it could be old, it could be somebody who's in another form of the hobby that says, you know what, I have been a little disenchanted, but this nitro thing sounds exactly what I need. So, and you mentioned it can be overwhelming. So obviously going to drakeracing.com is the first place they need to go, because for myself, just trying to learn a little bit more about this hobby, that really helped me. And I tried to look at it from that perspective. Like, what if I was getting into this? What kind of, specific tips or advice could you give somebody who says, I got the money to do it, I just want to jump in?
I think the big thing is just don't be afraid to ask questions, and also know that there's going to be some growing pains. And honestly, that's the case with anything racing. It doesn't matter if it is electric, that's a little bit more plug and play and a little bit more simple. You're still not going to know it all the first time you hit the track. I mean, we've been racing a long time, and I still learn stuff all the time at the races. So I think the big thing is just understand and almost appreciate some of those growing pains, because it will make you appreciate that much more when everything does kind of get ironed out and you figure out and you have some success. If it all just worked out, you wouldn't realize, how challenging it is, and also how rewarding it can be when it all works out.
Everything's a process. And the other thing is, don't get caught up with sponsorship. It's kind of like high school. Like, you feel like when you're down at the track, you've got to be sponsored and you have to do certain things a certain way, or any of that. I think just have fun doing it and don't get caught up with the politics of it.
Well, and if there is certain brands that you're really into and you strive to be a part of or be sponsored, work your ass off until you reach the goals of being sponsored by them. Don't just go a different route just because there's another opportunity there. I think that's where a lot of people do get discouraged is, say they want to run for company A and they don't have any openings right now. So they try to run for company B, which isn't the same level company, or they're not super happy with the product and they have problems and they have supply chain problems and you can't get parts. Next thing you know, you're frustrated and you want to sell all your stuff and get out of it. It's anytime someone walked into a hobby store for the first time to get an RC car, they were never thinking about, man, one day I'm going to get this stuff at a discount. They went in there because it was cool, because they were excited about it. And don't lose track of that. Don't just because someone around you maybe has some discount, but again, it's for brand B. If you're into brand A, work hard and do the best that you can to hopefully have more enjoyment, and then possibly someday, maybe get a sponsorship or get a discount from them, because we see it especially here in Southern California, because everyone tries to be the serious racer and they jump around, they try different tires, engines, cars, fuel, you name it. And then they have a problem, they don't finish races, or their engines don't run as well. And then the next thing you know, you don't see those guys anymore. Yeah. And, if they would have just stuck with it. And the thing also with sponsorship is, I don't know of anyone who's gotten sponsored and actually saved money. You actually just have more stuff. Because whatever your budget is what your budget is. So if you have $100 to spend, you're still going to spend that $100. You're just going to get more stuff. And I know that sounds crazy. I mean, we all want to save money and get a discount on stuff, but in racing, it seems like if you're saving money on tires, you're just buying more tires, or you're buying more batteries because you saved on tires. So just don't lose track of why you're doing this and the products that you enjoy and support. Don't go other directions just because on paper or on the outside it looks like a better deal, because it's not always a better deal.
Can't thank you enough for coming on the show tonight. It's been a pleasure to be able to talk with you guys, because you're as exciting and as fun and just laid back as anticipated from checking out all your social media and stuff. So just keep doing what you're doing. Anytime you're thinking, man, this is a grind, just know there's, at least one dude in Wisconsin who thinks you guys are awesome and doing a great thing for the hobby. So,
I mean, I think more than anything, we just want to thank you for having us, and thank everyone for listening and watching. Obviously all of our sponsors for supporting us and allowing us to do what we love to do. But basically just, everyone who's watching and liking the stuff that we do, and even the people who don't, we appreciate and we accept the criticism as well, because from that we can learn and try to improve things as well.
Hope that you guys have a great night, and thanks for joining us.
Same to you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it as well.
You've been listening to RC Underground Radio. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, drop us a line at rcuradio@gmail.com. We're curious to know, what do you like? What don't you like? Who would you like us to talk to?
Sounded really weird.
It was weird, but you know what I meant. We're talking about racing, so...
Okay.
You can find us on Spotify, Facebook, and YouTube. See you next time on the RC Underground Radio Podcast.
I am a BB in a boxcar.